I'm going to do a few things, and then we'll start the Senate meeting in about 5 minutes. Gives people some more time to. Alrighty. Oh, am I on mute? Okay. Great. All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6:01 p.m. Secretary Shelver, will you please take the roll?
One second.
Are you good? Do one thing.
All right. Senator Anderson,
Here.
Senator Borghesani,
Here.
Senator Bowles,
Here.
Senator Corkish,
Excuse.
Senator Durnell,
Here.
Senator Flanagan,
Here.
Senator Fulton,
Here.
Senator Gluckert,
Here.
Senator Gregory,
Here.
Senator Hahn,
Here.
Senator Hurley,
Here.
Senator Jimmy,
Excused.
Senator Johnston,
Here.
Senator Kiefer,
Here.
Senator Medina,
Here.
Senator Nelson,
Here.
Senator Ream,
Here.
Senator Rink,
Here.
Senator Tarallo,
Present.
Business Manager Parsons,
Yep.
Vice President Hanley,
Here.
President Belcher.
Here.
Great. With that, we will now go into approval of the March 25th minutes. I'll pull them up so you all can see. I'll just kind of go through them. Make sure you minimize the screen on the right so you can see the whole document. Does anyone have any corrections that they want to make to the minutes right now? If so, text or message me and I'll get you on the speakers list. All right. Any corrections to the minutes? Oh, Senator Durnell.
Under unfinished business in sections C, A, and C, I move to change the spelling of RNA to just RA, and all other instances that it occurs, but as far as I know, it's just section C, A, and CB under unfinished business.
Oh.
Second.
Gotcha. All right. All right. Looks like that's it. So it's been moved by Senator Durnell, seconded by Senator Turallo,
Unanimous.
and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Seeing none, both motions have been adopted. Is there any other corrections to the minutes that people would like to make at this time? Any more corrections? Last call. All right, seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the March 25th meeting. It's moved by Senator Turallo.
Second.
Seconded by, who was that?
Unanimous. Gregory.
By Senator Gregory, and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? All right, seeing none, the minutes of that meeting have been approved. This now moves us into public comment. Just a reminder, senators, please be attentive while people are giving public comment, if there is any public comment to give. But I would ask now if anyone's in the meeting that would like to give public comment, please unmute yourself and please give public comment. Any public comment? Last call for public comment. Great, seeing none, so ends public comment. President Belcher.
So begins the president's report. First up, we have the ASUM Student Service Award. Normally, what we would do in this situation is the student receiving it would get to go up to the podium and we would all clap and knock and celebrate. But we are on Zoom tonight, so Senator Nelson, or in this context, Zoe Nelson, I will now yield to you if you have anything you would like to say about you receiving the ASUM Student Service Award.
Yeah, I first wanted to say I didn't realize I was going to be nominated for this award, and I'm appreciative that Senator Johnston thought that my service was of value and felt the need to nominate me. I also wanted to recognize the other people that were nominated for this award. Nicholas Ream is an outstanding person on this campus, and his involvement across campus is well known to my knowledge and worth celebrating. Grant, on the other hand, I know him well from some of my classes, and he's all around just a wonderful human being. And so I thought that nomination was well deserved as well. I think there's a lot of people on campus that probably deserve this award, and so I'd like to take a minute to acknowledge the many people that do a lot of things across this campus that we might not have had access to or might not have been able to see. And I wanted to thank all of you that put your vote in for me and recognized the work to be of some inherent value. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator Nelson. I guess, does anyone have any questions or comments for Senator Nelson? I'll look at the speakers list. Vice President Hanley?
Yeah, so the other thing that would normally happen is the student would get a plaque, either during the Charter Day Awards or during the Senate meeting, but that's kind of hard to do right now. So I'm working it out. I've sent Gwen an email and we're working to get that made and ordered.
Cool. Any other questions or comments for Senator Nelson? Okay, looks like none. So we will move into the next item on the agenda, which is online public comment. Vice President Hanley, do you mind pulling that up on the screen share? An email I sent out at like 5:15. Thank you. Cool. Does anyone have any discussion, questions, or comments on the online public comment? Right. Seeing none. Oh, Senator Durnell.
Hi. You know, it's pretty easy to see, but I'd like to just point out that all of these public comments are regarding specific resolutions we're seeing tonight regarding sustainable efforts on campus, specifically the composting, and then Holler's comment as well, which pertains to her own resolution. And I think that should be of our highest consideration when we look at these tonight and notice that the students are really engaged in these resolutions more so than other resolutions we've seen all year. So, and I applaud everyone who did send in a public comment.
Great, thank you, Senator Donnell. I'd also like to echo that, and good work to the senators and students who wrote these resolutions and getting students out to submit public comment. That's awesome. Do we have any more comments on the online public comment? I'm gonna wait like 5 seconds just to make sure. Cool. Seeing none, we can move on. Next up, I have committee reports. First committee report I have for you guys is the University Athletic Committee, which met for the first time in 2 months this Tuesday. The biggest takeaway from that meeting is because of sporting events and competitions that were canceled this semester, student athletes will basically have the opportunity to be a year back in their standing. So for example, if you were a junior this semester and you were playing a spring sport and it got canceled, you can be a junior again next semester. Senator Johnston was also in that committee meeting, so I'll yield to you if you have anything to add. Cool. Next up, I just have a comment about the incident command team meetings. Up until the end of last week, those meetings were daily. Now they have been moved to Tuesdays and Thursdays, but are still happening regularly. So if you have any questions or concerns concerning coronavirus, or you're have an issue with something going on campus, those will be the times that I will have given to me to voice those concerns to the administration. So it's really important that you're aware of those times. And then the general campus preparedness response group is on Thursday, which is a broader discussion about much of the same issues. So that's another opportunity there. Does anyone have any questions about those 2 meetings? I'll wait like 5 seconds for the speakers list. All right, seeing none, unit standards met on Friday, and they will be meeting again this Friday, and we'll be reviewing the program of social work. I also attended the student affairs meeting. The main consensus from that meeting is almost all service and student affairs have been moved to digital formats, except the limited operations of housing and dining. So if there's something under that umbrella that you're trying to access and you're having a hard time doing so, there should be a digital option for it. If there is not, or you can't get in touch with the person you're trying to get in touch with for those critical services, please email me and I'm happy to connect you to whoever you need to get connected with. Specifically with that, Brian French has scheduled an advising workshop for next Monday to go over with advisors how they should be advising students in this critical time, especially concerning issues that have to do with COVID-19 and the credit, no credit registration option. I'll be attending that on Monday, and I will be following up with any pertinent info there. Before I close my committee reports, does anyone have any questions about my committees? Sweet. Seeing none, we will now move into an update about transportation. So transportation is, as you know, still operational. However, this week we will be piloting a ride call service for students on the Missoula College route. Last week, each day we had between 0 and 8 riders on that route, so it's not popular. The reason we're piloting this is because we're considering moving towards that model to save fuel and provide more efficient transportation for students. So transportation is going to be collaborating with facilities and renting out some of the vans so that they can go pick students up. And there should be signage at that location instructing you on what to do if you find yourself there and needing to be picked up. As of right now, we are only doing it with one route, and it's the Missoula College route. Does anyone have any questions or comments about transportation? Cool. Seeing none, I now have a pretty cool update on the emergency grant situation. So big thank you to the Board on Budget and Finance for approving that $15,000 transfer. I think it's so important, and I'm really glad that ASUM got to be a leader in this category and set a good example for the rest of campus. Where that's at right now is I've been working with Liaison Reed to develop a digital application for students to fill out if they need funds, and I know he's working with folks on the web team and financial aid to develop a website for it. The foundation has also been fundraising for this, so big thank you to the UM Foundation and Cindy Williams. And there was also a $10,000 contribution for the UFA. 5,000 of that is coming from a grant that Daisy Rooks is applying for, and then the UFA is matching that grant with a $5,000 donation. So that's really exciting. It's going to be a really good opportunity for students who may have lost their jobs or are being displaced in their housing. I just think it's so cool that that resource is going to be available. Does anyone have, Business Manager Parsons?
Yeah, thank you for touching on everyone who's been involved thus far. Do you know of any other efforts to reach out to other campus entities or anyone else who would want to provide funding for these opportunities?
Yeah, so in meetings, I have been mentioning it. I know there have been discussions from other campus offices about contributing funds. However, nothing has been made official yet. So I'm not going to say which offices are donating because I don't know when and I don't know how much, and I don't want to put them on the spot, but I have heard from several campus stakeholders that there should be more funds coming in. Any other questions or comments on the emergency grant program? Sweet. Okay, next up, I would like to give you a quick update on what's been going on with the student employee discussion and just kind of see if there's any feedback, other concerns, or comments. So I went over a ton at the last meeting about the status of student employees, and I know it's a lot and that it can be kind of confusing. So just a quick reminder of where they're at. Student employees in general already have fewer rights than other employees on this campus. For example, they can be terminated at any time without reason. Their hours are cut to 29 hours a week, etc. And then because of the bargaining agreement with staff, student employee hours must be reduced before any classified staff hours are reduced. So they're really getting the short end of the stick there. They're also not eligible for unemployment. I've done a little bit more research into this, and that is because of a federal regulation. This is because the government views a student's job as being a student first and a worker second. And so that is why universities don't pay into unemployment for students. At the same time, when it comes to the stimulus package, they're not going to be getting that extra $600 a week that other people will be getting because they will be eligible for unemployment. Student employees are not. And if they are claimed as a dependent on their parents' taxes, they're also not going to get that relief check. So they're in a pretty sticky situation. It's really unfortunate, but there's been some movement in this, some new resources. There's a page on the Keep On Working website about student employees, specifically work study students. So some good news about that is because the work study is a financial aid award that has already been awarded, they can continue to pay that out. So those students are going to get paid. However, there's no guarantee that students who are not work study students and student employees will continue to get paid. I know there are a lot of students on campus who are having issues with losing their jobs or their hours being reduced, and that's a pretty significant problem considering they don't get benefits. There's also a new website on the Experiential Learning and Career Services website or webpage on that website that talks about some opportunities in the community that students can look to find jobs. I know I myself personally am looking for a second job considering the climate post-graduation, so I'm in the same boat as a lot of you. I encourage you to look there. There's some good resources. And then lastly, I just like to put in a reminder that if you are in a campus job or you know a student who is in a campus job, it's really in their best interest, unless they have other employment, to stay there because there's a hiring freeze on campus, so students will not be able to be rehired in another campus position until that freeze is lifted. I'll take a look at the speakers list. Business Manager Parsons.
That must be an old one, not me.
Whoops. Cool. This morning we had our ASUM cabinet about student employees. It went well, and I will share with you that one of the solutions that I shared with the cabinet was that should hire a director of student employment. I also spoke with Liaison Reed about this, and he told us that at every other institution he's worked at, there's been a similar position for students. I think needs one. This university has been talking about how overworked and overstressed HR is for quite some time. And I think if we are going to be giving more resources to HR in the future, that would be a great place to invest. Later tonight, I will be introducing a resolution about this very topic. I really think that it's important that those students have an advocate on campus. Senator Flanagan.
Yield, I was just going to point to the website that you mentioned.
Oh, cool, thank you. Senator Hahn.
Yeah, just to piggyback off what you were saying, UM Financial Education are doing 3 workshops on the 3rd, the 6th, and the 10th to answer some of the questions that you were going over. Our team's been sifting through the CARES Act and figuring out a lot of different resources for students. So if anybody has any questions, they're welcome to come to that. There's a Zoom link on their social media site.
That's a great resource, thank you. Before I move on from student employees, does anyone have any other questions or comments about that issue? Sweet. Okay, next up, this is an opportunity to have general discussion about the coronavirus, its effect on the Missoula community, its effect on campus. I learn a ton throughout the week. There's so much information flowing through the campus right now. I can't possibly report all of it back to you every week, but if there are any burning questions or concerns you have, I want to hear them. So please feel free to ask. I'm sure your peers are also wondering the same thing. Senator Flanagan.
So I guess this would be a question to the executives or anyone else that might have information on this. I was just curious if there was any talk about UM parking potentially doing refunds for parking passes, considering that for the majority of students, those aren't necessarily relevant anymore.
Yeah, so there has not been any discussion that, to my knowledge, about that specific fee. I do know that there's free parking available in Lot U right now for people who are essential and have to go to campus. However, I do know that the administration is discussing privately which fees will be reimbursed, and they're specifically looking at fees that relate to using a specific material or facility that is no longer available to people. So in general terms, that's all the information I have right now. Senator Glucker.
Yeah, I guess I had 2 questions, if I may. The first one was kind of related to what was kind of touched upon, and you probably don't have an answer to it, but I was going to ask about, yeah, some of those fees, but you kind of covered that. And then I was just wondering about if you've heard anything about commencement at all.
Yeah, so the commencement thing is in my other, so we'll go over that. And as for the fees, if there's a specific fee you want refunded or something that's crossing your radar that you think should be refunded, this goes for all of you, please email it to me because it's my job to let the administration know that. And they're probably not going to voluntarily look for fees to refund, so please tell me. Okay. Senator Flanagan.
Hi again. I'll probably be a bit annoying during this discussion, but going forward, I'm just curious what things might look like next semester, if there's been any talks to that, because I know, at least from what I've heard, different experts are putting a vaccine or any sort of solution 10 to 16 months out. So I'm curious to what this might look like fall semester and maybe even spring semester with what practices we might be taking, if we might be pushing fall semester back, or if there's any discussion on that. I don't know if I'm looking too far ahead.
Yeah, so I can give you kind of a broad discussion on that. I am not a medical expert and I know nothing about pandemics, so I can only repeat what I hear in the news, which I've been reading a lot of lately. But experts are predicting that the peak of coronavirus occurs sometime in late April to mid-May. They predict that it may come back during the fall, but there's no guarantee of that. As of right now, there's no reason for UM not to reopen during the fall semester unless we are put in another position where remote learning, telework, or shelter in place is necessary. As of right now, I have not read anything that indicates that will be the case come fall, but I can't commit to that being true or not because I'm not an expert in disease contagion. But what I will say, fun fact, the NFL announced that they will be coming back for fall football. So there are other organizations out there right now that are making plans for the fall and confidently saying they're reopening. I don't see at the status quo why would not do the same. But looking forward for student issues in the fall, I know that the president is starting a second task force to sort of be removed from the immediacy of the coronavirus situation and start planning for contingencies for sort of trickle down effects that might occur in the fall. Like, for example, how is a student who had to go back to remote learning and now can't afford to move back, how are we going to make sure that that student stays enrolled at So just those kind of long-term things are being looked at and planned for. But again, I can't confidently say whether or not operations will be open in the fall. I hope that answered your question as well as I could. Cool. Any other questions or comments? Coronavirus general discussion. Awesome. So my next announcement is pretty short. Next week, I'm going to be scheduling a Zoom meeting that everyone running for ASUM president, I highly recommend you attend. I'm going to tell you about the job duties of ASUM president, the kinds of things I would do in a day, the kinds of topics that I would talk about with administration, general advice. I'm going to try to keep it pretty lighthearted and interesting. So that being said, if you are a presidential candidate, please email me sometime before Sunday night times that you absolutely cannot get on a Zoom meeting, and then I'll schedule around that. I can't force you to come, but I really think you should. I'm going to try to make it fun and interesting for you. So does anyone have any questions about a day in the life of ASUM president? Adriana Medina, or I mean, Senator Medina. I'm sorry.
No, it's okay. I was just wondering if anybody can join that meeting, like if non-presidential candidates can join that meeting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's totally fine. I don't know how interesting it'll be to you, but yeah, anyone who wants to can. I'll have, sorry, I'm plugging my phone in because it's about to die, but I will have a Zoom invitation sent out for everyone.
May I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Do you know when that date will be yet? And you may have already said that.
Yeah, so I'm gonna prioritize around the candidate schedules to make sure that they can all come. So that's why, and I'll just repeat it too in case people didn't hear. So if you are a presidential candidate and there's a time that you are absolutely unavailable because you're doing a campaign activity or you have a class or you're teleworking in some way, please let me know over the weekend so that I can make sure I schedule this at a time that everyone can come. And Senator Medina too. Any other questions, comments about that? Sweet. Seeing none, we will now move into my other. So before we go into commencement, I just have one quick request from all of you. So I've been working with the Marketing and Outreach Committee a little bit about some ideas to do get out the vote for the fee referenda. And I've sort of taken on the project of making a video for the ASUM activity fee restructure and increase. So I came across some roadblocks because I was really realizing it's pretty awkward and weird to just make a video of me by myself out at my family's house campaigning for the fee referenda. So one thing that I would like from you, and it should take you less than a minute, is if you take a selfie video landscape way explaining why ASUM is important to you, what ASUM services are important to you, how you utilize them, or how ASUM has made a difference in your life and why it's important to you that that fee referenda passes. I'm going to edit them all together in a way that is compelling and interesting. And I'm going to have that sent out in a campus communication and hopefully make a pretty cool video that includes everyone. Does anyone have any questions about the video? Cool. Seeing none, I have a quick update about commencement. So just to kind of do a review for you, commencement is currently being decided on by OCHI. and they have said that they will reach a final decision by Friday, so they'll let you know what they're deciding about that. I can't say whether it's canceled or not, but I did want to have a discussion with you all about what sorts of things in the event that it would be canceled would be appropriate gestures or replacements. So I'll just let you know a few of the ideas that I floated around or I've heard of. One idea that I've heard is having the class of spring 2020 be able to walk in the ceremony with the class of fall 2020. Another idea that I've heard is a digital commencement. I'm sure they will all mail you your diplomas, regardless of if there's a digital or a later commencement, so don't worry about that. Some sort of video for students in May, or finding a way to specifically recognize a class of 2020 over homecoming and doing something special for them as alumni. I'll just share my opinion as a graduating senior. I'm not really interested in doing a digital ceremony. I think that would kind of twist the knife about not having graduation. And I'm also not interested in graduating in a ceremony with a class of fall 2020 because that's not a graduation for my class, but I understand that other students may feel different. Those are the ideas that have sort of been floated around. I would prefer the homecoming idea, but I'd love to hear from you all what you think about that. Senator Flanagan.
First, before I get into graduation, I did have a question on the video and sort of just that discussion. I didn't really get the chance to be on the speakers list in time, but I was just curious. I've had a couple people ask me what the turnout would be, or what we're thinking the turnout might be, considering the fact that right now a lot of people are off of campus.
Yeah, that's a good question. I honestly cannot say what the turnout will be. I predict that it might be lower because we've lost opportunities for engagement, but students are also more bored right now, so they might take the time to get on their app and vote. So I can't really say. I do think, though, that the videos will help, and I also think having a variety of people in there will help the students viewing it feel connected to their campus and feel connected to sort of the ASUM community. I think it would be a lot better than me or one of us just droning on. So I don't know if that answered your question.
Definitely.
Well
And can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Speaking on graduation, I really like the idea of the fall commencement. The fall commencement graduation, like walking with fall, just because I feel like by then the virus would have died down enough, and I think it'd be appropriate, and I don't think it'd be too necessarily hard to do. I am strongly against the idea of a digital commencement for the fact that I imagine the only place that we could really facilitate it through is Zoom, and Zoom can only handle up to 300 participants, which I don't think would be sustainable for our graduating class unless something happened. But I don't think that that's a great idea. I know that from what I've heard, most departments are tentatively canceling their graduation ceremonies for now. But I think that the fall 2020 ceremony, spring walking with fall, is probably the best course of action.
Thank you. Senator Gluckert.
Yeah, I guess I'll talk also as a graduating senior. And I would say that I would be very disappointed if I had to do some sort of digital commencement. I did not spend 4 years here to do something online, to be quite honest. So I would not be happy if the university did that. Just speaking as a student that is graduating, I guess I know a couple other universities that are postponing their commencement to later summer. And I know that's probably not ideal right now because we don't know where coronavirus will be at that point. But I also don't really like the idea of, graduating with the fall of 2020 because I think that we're in different cohorts of people. I would be okay with doing something with homecoming, but I think that it would have to be something along the lines of familiar or similar to a commencement. There are so many students that deserve to walk across the stage and get their degree. Like, I just think about a lot of like first generation students and so many students, non-traditional students like that have waited so long for this and deserve to be recognized in some way that is not over Zoom or not digitally. So something separate from fall of 2020. But I don't know. I guess there's no like perfect answer, but I guess that's just an opinion from a graduating senior.
Senator Fulton.
Well, my question got answered, so yield.
Senator Torello.
Yeah, just from what I've been hearing, obviously I'm not graduating this year, but my heart does go out to the spring 2020 class. This is a sucky situation for everyone. I think of the options that have been discussed, the homecoming idea is the better of the three. The Zoom graduation would just be a joke, in my opinion. And having you guys walk with the fall 2020 would kind of take away from both classes, I think. I would also be in favor of maybe just postponing it till, indefinitely, and maybe have it sometime in between spring and fall semester, assuming this thing dies down, quick enough. But yeah, out of the three, I think the homecoming idea is the best.
Thank you. Senator Anderson.
Yeah, so I was just curious, because I know like the law school has a separate graduation, and they don't do a fall commencement. They have those who graduate in the fall walk in the spring. So is there something that Ochi is looking at for that, because they're the only law school in the state, or are they just throwing them in with the rest of the campus?
I have no idea. I have heard no mention of differentiating the law school from other universities in this discussion. One thing I did though, and it's a recommendation I made to both the administration, Ochi, and the regents, was to remove that decision from Ochi and put it in the hands of the campuses, just because I also think that there's a lot of unique situations and I don't really see a system-wide solution making that many people very happy. That's a really good point that you bring up about the law school. I also know that a lot of the two-year colleges would prefer just a rescheduled ceremony, because most of those students that attend those community colleges or two-year colleges live in the area and will be there to do it, whereas some of us at four-year schools worry that because of the large number of out-of-state students that it wouldn't be accessible to most students if it was rescheduled or postponed, and there's just too many different things going on at different campuses. So I hear you. I brought it up. Can't make any promises.
May I have a follow-up?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Okay, so just to throw in my 2 cents, not that I'm graduating this year, but I'm very close with a lot of the 3Ls. I would be in favor of the homecoming idea, especially if they're going to throw in the law school with everyone else, because again, we don't have a fall commencement ceremony, but also because in the summer, a lot of our students are studying for the bar exam, and as of right now, that's still happening. And so I know that we're not the only ones. Like pharmacy also has boards that they're required to take this summer, as well as physical therapy and stuff like that. So I just want that to be taken into consideration as well when the university is making the decision.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. Senator Johnston. Senator Johnston? Bueller? Oh, no, Senator Johnson? Okay. Cool. Well, it looks like that's the end of my speakers
No, he's
list.
going to get on.
commencement.
Just saying 1 second, President Belcher.
Oh.
I am so sorry. My music started playing and I didn't know how to stop it and have my mic going. So I'm so sorry about that.
That's okay. You're forgiven.
It just randomly started. Anyways, as a graduating senior, which I think that has little to no to do with this situation, like it sucks, but like it just happens to be with the times. I think that the homecoming idea is the best idea that's been presented, but I would personally prefer doing like a summer commencement. I know that's kind of weird and it's a little like it would be pretty wonky to do, but it's kind of a postponed, it still recognizes us. It gives us a chance to walk if we want to walk, if we have the ability to, and it doesn't like infringe on falls walking and or like you could have it on a Saturday so that it doesn't infringe on summer classes if people are going to finish up classes in the summer that want to walk. So I think that would be my preference of a solution. But then again, I don't know. I'm not the one to make that decision.
Vice President Hanley?
So I did just want to give this point of information. This was going to be in my committee reports later anyway, but one thing that President Bonner has announced with summer is that the first part of the first session at least will be taught remotely. I don't know if that's going to factor into whether if they decide to do a summer commencement or not, but that's just something to keep in mind.
Cool, thank you. Cool, seeing the end of my speakers list, I'll just share, I also agree that the homecoming option is probably the best option. It would be cool if they could do multiple of these and give students a variety of opportunities. I personally don't think it has to be either we walk in the fall or we get an event at homecoming. I think it could be both. One other thing too that I forgot to mention is that President Bonner is considering going to different communities in Montana and doing small ceremonies for the graduates from those communities. But then again, none of this is decided for sure. Senator Flanagan.
Yeah, I just want to say I might have gotten the homecoming thing wrong. I didn't realize that it would potentially be like a commencement. If that's what it is, I'm totally in favor of homecoming. I think that'd be cool, and I like the idea of individually highlighting spring and fall. That being said, I also think the community plan is really cool. I would totally be in favor of that as well. I think timing really does have to be taken into consideration though. As we've already discussed, from the information that President Belcher has heard, sounds like the peak would be around May, April. And as such, I'm not really in favor of any sort of summer commencement, just because I think that would be contributing to any sort of resurgence that the virus might have. And I think that that's something we really need to be cognizant of and careful of. I understand the concerns with wanting a summer commencement, but I think that it might not be in the best interest of students as well as just the general welfare of our community. Instead, I would be much more in favor of something in the fall after things have died down more and we are much more confident of being able to limit the spread. Same with the communities. I'd be really in favor of that if it was done in the later in the year, and I also would hope that it isn't restricted just to Montana, but it went to various locations in which large portions of our student body are from.
That's a good point. So just to be clear, what I suggested to the administration about homecoming was something in between a full-on formal commencement ceremony and a small gathering. I suggested a more formal reception with speakers. And the reason I suggested that is because homecoming is going to be a time that a lot of the class of 2020 would be returning to Missoula anyway. And I figured that would make it most accessible for out-of-state students and students who still lived in the community. So I don't know for sure what they do when or how formal it's going to be. Senator Fulton.
This might just be an idea, but have you guys talked about like potentially sending out like a mass email to graduating seniors and asking what they would prefer and then taking the data and then going a decision based off of that?
Yeah, so after Ochi makes a decision on Friday, I believe the president's office will be sending some sort of survey out. Any other questions or comments about commencement? Cool. Seeing none, the last thing I have in my other is just a reminder that even though my office hours are canceled, I'm still happy to meet with you guys and talk with you on the phone. Please call me anytime. My phone number is in my email signature on the website and on my business card. You can also make an appointment with me as well. I'm pretty flexible and open to meeting with you. So with that said, So ends the president's report.
And so begins the vice president's report. Give me 1 second to pull up committee assignments. But if anyone would like to get on the speakers list, you can send me a text and we can go from there. One preference that I had, I did get a Facebook message, and although I'm accepting those, it dings so loud on my computer because I have the volume turned up to hear you all. So if you can, please text me. I'll take you all through some of the changes. I don't think there's any changes on the ASUM committee side, but there's quite a few on the university committee side. Or just, yes. Any discussion? Last call. Great, seeing none, I'll now entertain a motion to approve committee assignments.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by Senator Torello and seconded by Senator Flanagan.
Unanimous.
Unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Great, seeing none, committee assignments have been approved. And then before I go into office hours, just a logistical update. If there is a placard vote for whatever reason, I'm not going to do the yes, no, and the participants tab. I created like 8 polls that you all can go through and vote on in the chat when there is a placard vote. So we'll be doing it that way. And even if you're using a phone, you should have access to it. So just an FYI there. But next I'll go into office hours. I just want to touch on this again, but please, please, please be sure to send me an email by Friday at 5 p.m. If for some reason that you can't send me your office hour email by Friday at 5, email me, call me, let me know, and I can extend it or excuse it based on whatever circumstances you have. You just make sure to do all the required tasks in the office hour documents, and the delineation between the required task and the optional tasks is that the optional tasks have optional in parentheses marked next to them, and required is just a normal task. And then there was one other thing that I wanted to touch on for the optional tasks, which is the past Constitutional Review Board decisions. I've gotten a few emails asking about this, and I just want to touch on this a bit. So the way that you can find past Constitutional Review Board decisions, I've already found them for the last 13 years, but if you go to legacy documents and you click on a random meeting, you can scroll through all the documents, and if there is a Constitutional Review Board that was presented at that Senate meeting, it will be a part of the collecting documents. You can download that specific page and then send me the Constitutional Review Board decision, and I'll upload it onto the governing documents website. This is just to make sure that we have a review of all of our past decisions, and we archive it in a manner that's accessible to students, as well as accessible to the executives, because those Constitutional Review Board decisions set precedent based on how you can and should interpret the Constitution. Specifically, one interpretation that I had to use this year from a past Constitutional Review Board decision was fees, and with ASUM endorsing a student-driven fee. So with that, I'll take any questions. And right now I have Senator Janelle.
Hey, for the Constitutional Review Board findings, do you have to click into each meeting specifically and just scroll through the agenda to see if there's any CRBs?
Yeah, and that's the unfortunate thing right now, and that's why it was a task, was because it's not, you can't easily find it. Did you have a follow-up?
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Where would it be located in the agendas?
So it would be here. I'll show you an example right now. Give me 1 second. I'll pull it up. But sometimes they're bidden, or sometimes they're pretty buried, and other times they're like the 4th page right after the minutes. So it's pretty hard to find sometimes. think I went a little bit too far. Okay. So this is like a sample meeting from the 90s that you can see. And they typically look like this. You go through and there's the minutes. And then supporting documents, you would find like CRBs, funding requests, and resolutions down there. And then any other supplemental documents. Next, I got Senator Flanagan.
I was just curious, I don't know, this might be a little off topic, but I was wondering if you could talk a bit about the Constitutional Review Board decision that you found and how it was implemented into the work that you were doing. You mentioned that and it sounded really interesting.
Yeah, so this wasn't necessarily a formal action taken by ASUM, but one thing was in 2010, there was a decision by the university to advocate to the Board of Regents to increase the athletic fee. And the ASUM Senate on its own decided to endorse that. Now, there was a Constitutional Review Board called because for a fee that isn't student driven, the ASUM Senate can't support it until the student body votes to approve it. So that Constitutional Review Board struck down that resolution, and instead they put it to a student vote to support I think it was either the athletic fee or something with a facilities fee. And so when we were going through and there was discussions had about whether we should increase the curry fee or the transportation fee as well, that was something that I had to implement and utilize to ensure that we weren't violating the Constitution based on past precedents. The other big decisions that have been involved with past Constitutional Review Boards have been MOPRG. So if you look through the current ones right now, I think like 2 of them are solely based on MOPRG.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions about office hours or even the Constitutional Review Board? Great, seeing none, that moves me on to committee reports, and I have 3 for you all. So I'll go through the first 2 quick, and then the last one is very lengthy. So the first one was, I know I mentioned this in a couple meetings ago about grad appeals and finding a student for the summer. I talked to the people that are on the committee, and they asked me to stay on for this summer, but if you are interested in the committee, talk to next year's VP and you can get appointed. The makeup of the committee is 2 faculty members that are voting members, 1 student that's a voting member, a faculty member that's a non-voting member, and then a couple people from OSS and TRIO. And the basic premise behind it is it's appeals for general education requirements as well as graduation requirements. It's a pretty important committee, and I put about, there's not a ton of cases that you have to do, but I usually put about 5 hours a month into it, and I think it's probably one of the most important things that I've done as a student on ASUM. But I'll take any questions about that committee if you have any, and I have Senator Flanagan.
Yeah, I was just wondering if this committee is going to be meeting over Zoom for the remainder of the summer. Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how it's going to be meeting for the remainder of the summer, but it's also a confidential committee, so people can't observe it.
So thank you.
All right, seeing none, I'll move on to the second one, which is Faculty Senate. So I basically gave President Belcher's report as an ASUM communication to the faculty there and advocated for elections voting. And it sounds like that they are on board with sending faculty notices about when voting happens. And so that's really cool. They're gonna probably send out the link to vote, which is just m.umt.edu. And I put the elections committee in charge of that. So hopefully we should be increasing turnout that way. The other thing was a couple of other things that happened. Provost Harbor had a pretty lengthy communication with them about 2 very specific things. The first was the credit, no credit option. And you should have seen communication in your email probably the next day after it was voted on, which was the credit, no credit policy for the remainder of the semester. Originally, it was supposed to be high credit, credit, no credit, which you all saw on the last Wednesday's meeting, but they instead changed it to complete credit, credit, and no credit. And you can opt into that 7 business days after the registrar posts the grade to CyberBear. So it's an important distinction, and there's a lot of discussion about the specific timeline in that. But that's something to know. And then the other thing that they talked about was study abroad, and specifically with regards to raising Department of State levels of different countries and public health crises and those types of things. The policy hasn't been voted on yet, but it's changing very drastically from what I saw Donna Anderson present. And I can send you the updated document if you all want to look at it. I think it's policy 380 if you look on the Faculty Senate agenda. But that is going to go through some pretty significant revisions in the next month. And then, they also did not vote on the graduate credit, no credit option. And they instead kicked that over to grad council, which grad council voted on that today. And I'll let Senator Anderson talk about that more during her committee report. And then the last thing that was talked about in Faculty Senate was Paul Lassiter presented the budget model. And I can share with you all the PowerPoint for that. And I'm sure Business Manager Parsons can talk more about that. And if you have any questions, make sure you reach out to him because he's been serving on the subcommittee all year. But any questions about Faculty Senate? Cool. Flanagan, did you have one? Or am I just looking at a, okay. Great. So with that, I'll go on to my last committee report, which is the Summer Academic Council, and I have quite a bit. So the first thing was that we looked at the enrollment trends from going into this summer. And basically the trend right now is that students are deciding to not register for summer because of this COVID-19 crisis. And that is creating a pretty a drastic financial effect on Summer in some ways. So enrollment right now from last summer to this summer is down about 6 to 7% from 2008 to about 1860. So some classes, what's going to happen is that some classes could be pushed to the second session to see if registration increases and they can make the financial impacts worth their while. All first 6-week sessions are going to be done online, or not online, but remotely. So that's also something, if you're taking a first 6-week session, you need to be aware of that. The other thing was that instead of doing it like they did during the end of the spring semester, where some professors have the option to finish their classes early, the first session of the summer will not be doing that. And so it will be staying on the same timeline. Instructors can adjust their schedules and their committee or their syllabi how they want, but it'll stay on the same timeline as if the summer session was being given in person. The other thing that they talked about was because of the decline in enrollment, there could be some course cancellations. They're looking at all possibilities to ensure that as few courses as possible get canceled, but inevitably courses are going to get canceled, and that's always been the trend this summer. Some courses end up getting canceled because there's not enough enrollment to teach a class. So a couple things that they're doing is looking at the budget model and seeing if some faculty would be okay with taking a little less pay for those courses, and then also consolidating sections if enough students aren't taking those sections in order to have that course meet the black. And then the last thing too is that they are thinking about an extension of a credit, no credit option. And what I pushed for was to have pretty much the same thing during the spring semester, because it's hard to tell whether remote delivery / online delivery is going to be the same for the summer session. I think some of the differences that we'll see for the first session of the summer compared to the second set or compared to the spring semester is that a lot of students didn't just have to uproot and move away immediately if they were living in the dorms or whatnot. And that could be a little bit different in the summer and make it a little bit easier. But some students will still have to move back, and housing is probably going to be uncertain for students then, as well as if they're still laid off from their jobs, then they might not be able to have financial access to other resources like food and whatnot. So that's another sticking point for me. And that's why I think if in these uncertain times, it's better to give students a little bit more flexibility in choosing credit, no credit. And I think implementing the same thing, at least for the first 6-week session of the summer, would be beneficial. But I'll take any questions now if you have any, and I have President Belcher. You're on mute.
My bad, I'm sorry, rookie Zoom mistake. So last summer and if you said this, forgive me, but last summer they had a deal on housing where if you registered for summer courses, you got significantly reduced housing. I think it was $200 for the whole summer to live in the dorms if you were registered to 6 credits. Do you know if there's any plan to use that model to get students back into housing and registered for summer classes?
I do not, but I can bring that up with Grace.
Thank you.
Any more questions for me about the Summer Academic Council? Senator Fulton.
So I know with some ed majors, when they do like their student teaching stuff or observations, a lot of them actually do use summer to like do summer school. So they like go and like teach a summer school program. Have you guys talked about that at all or not really?
Yeah, so we talked about that, and it was fairly interesting in the way that we talked about it, because we looked at the number of different sections that were being offered, and there's like 1,800 different sections that are being offered in summer, and a lot of that is due to people doing internships or theses or dissertations during the summer. And right now, that the plan to do that is entirely up on the internship supervisor, so much to say. So like if schools are open during the summer and that internship opportunity is available, then it sounds like that they can do that. But it's kind of uncertain, and I would have to talk more with Cheryl Minnick from ELCS about it, just to be certain. But it sounds like that's what was the plan when it came out of that meeting today. Any more questions? Cool. Seeing none, that moves me on to my other, and I have, I think, 4 things for you all. So the first is about getting people to come to Senate meetings. It's been a little bit tough for the last 2 weeks because people have been literally working nonstop on the coronavirus since the campus or campus classes going remote has been announced. So I will be trying to get some people to come talk at Senate meetings, and I think a few, or at least one that's on my mind, particularly with the Summer Academic Council meeting, is Grace Gardner, just to see what all the changes are, if there's any struggles going into summer, so that she can come talk to you all, because we have a once-a-month meeting, but that isn't necessarily enough to keep everyone updated on an accurate basis. So I'll try to get her to come, and then some other cabinet and admin people to come talk with you all about the coronavirus response. And then if you have any specific issues that you want to see addressed, please email President Belcher. But if there's also like specific issues that you want to talk to an admin person about, also let me know, so that I can try to get them to a Senate meeting. So if it's like housing or whatnot, I can invite Sarah Swager to come to a Senate meeting, or I can invite other people from other sectors, where if you have a ton of questions about it, I just want to make sure that's worth their while. So let me know, or let President Belcher know, and I can try to coordinate those visits for the last 3 Senate meetings. All right, no questions. So the second thing is that elections and campaigning has officially started as of Monday at 12:01 a.m. Although it's a little bit different this year, you still need to continue being an ASUM senator as an ASUM senator. So not as your official campaign, you're still an ASUM senator in your official capacity. So please treat it as such. And then for the remainder of the semester, please be cordial, professional, and kind to each other. This is usually a time when it starts to get crazy, and it starts to get frustrating and tense. So please just be kind and professional to each other. It makes the year go a lot smoother. Just threw away my report. So the third thing I have my other, if you are running for vice president, you should really meet with me. I've talked about it like for the last 4 Senate meetings. And you can meet with me during my office hours. You can meet with me outside of my office hours, and I have a lot of time to meet with you all and discuss things. I have a list of things that I'm going to talk to you about initially, and then there's a lot of time for if you have questions about certain things that I can answer. So please meet with me. I'll try to send an email out soon about it to you all, or to every single VP candidate, and then hopefully we can get you talking to me. And then the last thing is, I sent this in the group chat, but please make sure to fill out the survey about winter session. It's pretty important, and I don't know when the implementation of that's going to be. We did discuss it during Summer Academic Council today, so I'm not sure when the new winter session could be implemented, but just please fill it out. It's important to get feedback for, and Nathan Lindsay's been working hard to try to get all of that feedback condensed, and then it should be up on our social media, so when that gets up, please share, and hopefully it'll give students something to do so that they can give productive feedback back to the administration. Any questions about that? Senator Rink. Senator Rink.
Can you hear me now? Sorry. I made that post on Facebook. I'll make it on Instagram probably after this meeting. But yeah, if any of you can share it, just go to the ASUM Facebook page. And the link is there. And it's on Qualtrics. I already took it. It takes like 2 minutes. So yeah.
Great. Thanks for doing that. And yeah, for when the Senate meeting gets over, a good thing to do would just be go on Facebook and share that. So any more questions for me about that? Any more questions for me in general? Last call. All right, seeing none, so ends the Vice President's report.
And so begins business manager's report. So as you can see, all of the funds from the previous week, there hasn't been much movement. Student group activity is very minimal right now. Again, we'll mostly be seeing requests out of STIP here on out. And hopefully by the end of, or at least next meeting, I can give you an update on the STIP account because it is tied to the market and it is an interest building account. It might be negatively impacted by what's going on with COVID-19. But I'll have more information on that for next week. But I did want to start with ASUM loan fund implementation. So President Belcher touched on this earlier in her report. We did contribute $15,000 from this loan fund to help aid students who have been negatively impacted by COVID-19. If you look over fiscal policy in like section 19 of fiscal policy, there are quite a few stipulations for how this loan fund has to be administered. But we decided, as a body of Board on Budget and Finance, that we wanted to make this more flexible. So as opposed to making it a loan, it is going to be more of a grant, so students do not have to pay it back. We felt that it was unreasonable to ask students to have to pay it back at a later point in time when this is literally an event that no one could have foreseen. So I appreciate the flexibility of the board there in granting these as loans and just being flexible with students during these trying times. But if there's any questions about this loan fund, I'll accept them for the next 45 minutes. Just kidding, 10 seconds. 10 seconds if you get them in. All right, I have Senator Flanagan. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you or President Belcher could give a bit more background on the loan fund and what it's going to look like. I know it was touched on a bit in the President's report, but I'm hoping to hear a bit more about it and just about what it's going to look like, how it's going to be implemented, any sort of timeline with it, or if that's still all kind of up in the air right now.
Yeah, of course. I'll give my bit and then I'll let President Belcher chime in afterwards. So this one's something I've been interested in for quite a while. This loan fund has always been a little bit dubious. I'm not sure where it has been. Thankfully, our accountant Marlene was able to track it down, and it is an account that we have held for quite some time. Currently in the account, there is $65,000. What the Board on Budget and Finance approved, though, this past week was an allocation of $15,000 to be used for emergency grant programs, so it will not have to be paid back. And to my knowledge, it will be administered by our very own Brian Reed, our advisor, so over in Student Affairs. But President Belcher, if you wanted to chime in a little bit more, I know you know some of the logistics on this.
Yeah, so the loan fund is really interesting. It was something developed by ASUM a very long time ago, and this account has existed in business services since before Marlene was our accountant. And I'm sure she would appreciate me not saying what year that was, but it was a long time ago. And to be completely honest, no one knows where the money came from, if it was donated or if it was started out of fees. And then the other interesting thing about that account is it's not actually held in an index code that's ASUM's or seems to belong to anyone at all. It's just kind of like this mystery account. So when we emailed business services about it, they were kind of like, well, whatever you guys want to do with it, it's not ours. And so that's how that came about. The other thing too, just kind of as a suggestion for the senators, and if no senator takes it up, I'll take it up before the end of the year. But considering the fact that we have those funds there and Marlene processes less than 10 loan applications per semester for really small amounts of money, and there's still $65,000 sitting in it, I think it'd be well worth it to see if we can rewrite that part of fiscal policy to make it a more accessible fund, whether it's loans or grants, or even repurpose it for something better for students. I think where it's sitting right now with an unknown source, unknown owner is kind of not as useful as it could be. So just my 2 cents.
Did you want to follow up, Senator Flanagan? All right, perfect. And I do appreciate that. So if you do look at section 19 of ASUM fiscal policy, it is kind of garbage. A lot of it doesn't make a lot of sense. I do think that significant revisions need to be made there. And if anyone want to work on a project like that, I think that'd be worthwhile. I really like what CRELF does. So they have a mixture of grants and loans that they apply at any given point in time, but just based on a proportional amount. I believe it's like 25% goes into grants and then 75% for loans. I know they've changed that recently, but we could make it more of an account where you don't have to pay it back, especially since we have a fairly significant goose egg there. But this is something that should be worked on and ironed out before the end of the semester. So if anyone's looking for projects, I think this would be a good one. But back onto the main speakers list, it's currently empty. If anyone else would like to get on, I'll give you about 5 seconds. All right, seeing no further discussion on this, we'll go ahead and move into the financial request for the week. So the first one we have is the Kyman STIP request. This is one that's been bouncing around for a while. I know part of it's a bit confusing because of the first quote with some of the bookshelves and the additional shelves with the recent change in STIP policy of what individual items are. But I would welcome anyone from the Board on Budget and Finance to give an authorship kind of on what the board's decision was for this request for this week. So anyone on the board who was there this week, just go ahead and chime in. All right, I'll call on Senator Nelson then.
Yeah, the committee approved the first quote in full. I don't.
All right, that was sweet and to the point. That was the best authorship I've ever heard. All right, is there any discussion on this financial request? And just to remind y'all, this will still require a motion to approve in a particular amount. So if anyone wants to get on the speakers list, please email Vice President Hanley.
He meant text.
Oh, text. Thank you. Actually, just DM from Instagram. I think that's the way these kids work these days. Okay. Senator Flanagan.
Move to approve.
All right. There's been a motion to approve by Senator Flanagan in the amount of $2,026. Do I have a second?
Second.
Seconded by Fulton.
Unanimous.
Unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? All right. Seeing none, the STIP request is approved in the full amount. Since it has been, we'll move on to the next financial request for the week. And this is from the Circus Club. So if you read through this one is a bit confusing. The Board on Budget and Finance did reach a decision of how much they wanted to allocate for this. So because a lot of the circus equipment that they're talking about has additional components, they decided that, because circus equipment was one functional unit, that this did suffice for the STIP request. It's kind of like a Bowflex. That's the example we've been using, is there's certain attachments they can use to like one sort of base. That's what is represented in the STIP request. However, we are not able to fund labor, so that is the difference between the full amount and the quote one between what the recommendation is. So you'll see that it's about $700 as opposed to the $700 is the recommendation, $1,200 is the full request. But I would turn it over to the Board on Budget and Finance if they felt like I missed anything there. All right. It doesn't look like the board has anything else that they wanted to add, so I'll just open to my speakers list at this point in time. I know this request is a little bit more complex, but again, the only thing that the board decided not to fund for the first quote was the labor in that first line for RMR and facilities, and that is because the STIP account cannot be used to fund labor costs. But I do have Senator Flanagan.
Forgive me if you touched on this. I don't think you did. Is there a reason that the board approved it despite the fact that this was separate items?
Yeah, of course. I can touch on that. So basically, it's kind of the example I provided where it is like a Bowflex thing. So there are additional components to this, but I believe the board's decision in making this certain allocation was that each of these additional components, when put together, did constitute one item. So I guess similar to the last request, it was like their bookshelves. There were additional shelvings required for that, but functionally it was still a bookshelf at the end of the day. So with the circus equipment, once it's all put together, then it's functional as one unit. I know this is a complicated request, but I hope that did justice to the board's decision. But if anyone wanted to chime in at this point, feel free to do so.
May I have a follow-up?
Of course.
Move to approve.
All right. There's been a motion made by Senator Flanagan to approve this financial request in the amount of $737, seconded by Senator Fulton. Unanimous consent was called. Is there any discussion or objection? All right, seeing none, this STIP request is approved in the amount recommended by the Board on Budget and Finance. And with that, that ends all of financial requests that we have for this week. Again, it is going to be a little bit quieter on our end since we have suspended special allocation and travel for the remainder of the semester. Hopefully we'll see a few more line item changes on the Board and Budget and Finance level, but mostly I have notified some student groups who did have equipment in their budget request for this year that they should utilize the STIP fund for the remainder of the year, as it is one of the only sole student group accounts that is still accessible. All right, but with that, that ends financial requests for the week. So for committee reports, so today we did have the publications board meet. We interviewed candidates for the editor-in-chief position and their business manager position. There was qualified candidates. Senator Nelson was there with me as well. We did reach a decision, but I have yet to email the applicants of the board's decision. So I should have an update for you next week on who these individuals are, and just a note of congratulations to them for having achieved those positions. But I should have more update on publications board for the next week. Also in community reports, so Research and Creative Scholarship Fund, I have been talking with Andrew Vernon over in ELCS, kind of just to touch on what that's going to look like for the remainder of the semester. Because of the disruption of COVID-19, we don't feel that it's really worthwhile to fund any opportunities that have a travel component or sort of doing research in anywhere across the world. We don't really want to be sending students anywhere just because of the increased risk from this pandemic. So we're still trying to iron out details of what that scholarship fund is going to look like for the remainder of this semester. But for committee members, I would say please be patient. We're working on it. And we're going to try and find some solutions or ways that we can still fund students through scholarships. But if there's any questions about RCSF, you can go ahead and get on at this point too. Don't have much there. We're still just trying to get the ball moving. All right, seeing no further comments. So that's it for my committee reports. I only have the two ASUM ones. As Vice President Hanley touched on, Paul Lazar did present his budget model to Faculty Senate. Hopefully we can get him here so you can understand some more of the intricacies of that. Basically, it's like doing the best with what you got. That's basically any budget model. It's not as sexy. Budgeting never usually is, as you have all come to know through final budgeting. But it is fairly comprehensive, and I thought we did some good work on that. So hopefully we can get him here to provide a full rundown of what that looks like moving forward. All right. So into my other, I only did have one other. So with the governor's response to shelter in place, having applied to Montana State, we have decided to suspend all student group activities for the remainder of the semester. We'd previously been operating under the guidelines set forth by the CDC, in which student groups could not have more than 10 people at any given event. Since Governor Bullock has passed this order, it seems to make sense that we should suspend all student group activity here on out. Rightfully so, just because we want to protect our student body and mitigate any risk that could be imposed upon students. Something was sent out in communications student groups earlier this week from our student group coordinator, Kenzie Carter, notifying student groups of this. Some of you who are student group leaders or members may have received something similar to this. But this was just at the guidance of state leadership, and it seems to make the most sense just given the circumstances. But if anyone wants to touch on this further, feel free to get on the speakers list. I see I have a few so far. But first off, I'll start with President Belcher, if she's here.
I had a question about something unrelated to that, so you can put me at the bottom and then I'll go.
Oh, perfect. Okay, I have Senator Flanagan.
So I saw that it was decided that events or meetings that took place during the shelter-in-place order are not to be reimbursed. And I think there's a specific date given on that. I was just curious if any events that took place before the shelter-in-place order that violated CDC guidelines in terms of like the 10 people or more or anything like that. I was wondering if, well, first of all, if any events like that took place, and if so, were those events reimbursed despite violating CDC guidelines?
Yeah, of course. So the first one that we had instituted, it was when we had decided to suspend travel and special allocation for the remainder. It did start on March 23rd. So that was the university's decision to move to remote teaching. So any opportunities during that point in time up until March 23rd, we did still fund travel opportunities and special allocation opportunities. So with the governor's recent shelter-in-place order, which I believe was last Thursday or Friday, basically anything after that point in time, we decided we would not reimburse any activities with more than 10 students in attendance. So basically there was a week window in which student groups could have met to hold activities. To my knowledge, we didn't have any actually do that. But part of the reason why we sent that out this week was just to honor that shelter-in-place order commissioned by the governor. And basically the stick to enforce that is that we will not refund any activities at all because we don't want student groups to be meeting during these turbulent times. We don't want to put them in harm's way at any point in time. So basically that said, if any student groups did meet prior to the governor's shelter-in-place order, they will still be reimbursed for their activities. If they had less than 10 people in attendance, if they came to us with 11 or 12 people in attendance, though, that would be violating our previous guidelines of trying to minimize group activity to 10 people. I mean, 10 can feel like an arbitrary number. It's just we're trying to trust the experts on this, trying to trust scientists, you know, what they've been issuing to us. But during that slim week, I guess if anything did have less than 10 people in attendance and they're looking to be reimbursed, we would still honor that. But from here on out, we're not going to be reimbursing any student group activity. All right. So back in my main speakers, I do have Senator Durnell.
Hi. With the student groups not really being able to do anything for the rest of the semester and not having a way to exhaust their funds, I was wondering if there's anything, I guess, is that going to go back into zero-based, or has the board or anyone really discussed any other options as far as where that funding goes?
Yeah, of course. So as it currently stands in fiscal policy, anything unspent in student groups accounts at the end of the year rolls back into it. There are a few stipulations for the unions. $13,000 is, or sorry, excuse me, $3,000 is retained in each union account. But outside of that, everything does come back. What I've been doing thus far has been telling student groups who've been wanting to move funds, please do line item changes to buy equipment to utilize these funds thus far, because in fiscal policy, it states that it just does go back. And that no one will be able to retain those funds at the end of the year. However, this could be changed with the resolution. So given the extremities of this circumstance, if student groups felt that, you know, they have a right to the $500 that's left in their account at the end of the year because of cancellations to events or to travel or to any other form of activities that they're no longer able to do, that could come in the form of a resolution to state that, you know, because of coronavirus, COVID, for this academic year, student groups would be able to retain that amount. However, that would just require a change to fiscal policy. Where it stands right now, I would advise not to pass something of that nature, just because, I mean, ASUM is going to fall on hard times here pretty soon. It's looking like we're going to run deficits. I understand, like, from an equity standpoint, we want to be fair and make it so student groups continue to access those funds. But if they are not able to do anything for the rest of the year, they still have their budgets that were allocated them in February, which will again take place in July. So they'll have funds at their disposal. It's just that they won't be able to save said amounts. But yeah, I was going to say, if you are concerned about that, Senator Donnell, that is definitely something we can change through policy. But there has not been a discussion at the board on budget and finance level. I have had a few student groups reach out to me, and I've just been notifying them of what ASUM fiscal policy is, its limitations, and if they were seeking to change that, that they could try and do so through the form of resolution. But I think you could bring up a really good point.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
I got logged out for like a solid minute, so I missed a good chunk of that. But so sorry if you already said this, but I was wondering if there's any possibility through change in policy, even just a temporary suspension of it, where student groups could have rollover funds. I know that's already in place for unions where they get 3,000 rolled over, which will likely be filled now. But for other student groups, they don't really have that possibility. I was wondering if that's possible.
Yeah, I would say most definitely. If you can pass a resolution, my recommendation would be, if you were looking to do something, that you would make it temporary just because of this extraneous circumstance of COVID-19. Try and apply it to the 2019-2020 academic year. If you did want student groups to retain a portion of those funds, I guess try and figure out the sweet spot, like maybe put a cap of like 40% or 50% of the funds, or if it's in your interest so that they retain all of their funds for this year, you could. I guess once you had cut out, I had advised against doing so, just because we might incur significant losses at ASUM as a result of disruption in services this year. But from an equity standpoint, I understand wanting to let student groups retain some of those funds. I'd also touched on, that they get a brand new budget starting out on July 1. And also just there's some flexibility there with line item changes and purchasing equipment that is still available right now. And I wasn't sure if you caught this as well. There hasn't been a discussion at the board on budget and finance level. I think this is a worthwhile discussion though. So I'll probably include on the agenda on Sunday and send out the Zoom meeting to the Senate at large, if anyone's interested in those conversations. But yeah, if anyone's interested in doing something like that, resolution would be the best form, I think. Thank you for bringing that. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Senator Durnell. All right, back on my speakers list, I do have President Belcher, if you wanted to get to your point.
Yeah, so I just had this as a general question for you, Daniel. Do you want to talk at all about the meeting that we had last week about doing internship credit for student group leaders?
Yeah, of course. So this is something that we've been working on with Cheryl Minnick from ELCS. That office has been surprisingly busy during this time. Good on them. But we had met with Haley Mickelson from SIN Student Involvement Network and our own student group coordinator, Kenzie Carter, to try and make it so folks working within student groups could receive internship credit. Cheryl mentioned oftentimes there's a lot of folks who are planning on graduating and they're just missing 1 or 2 credits, but then they've been engaged in these amazing opportunities, student group leadership opportunities, working either as a president, vice president, treasurer, and just to try and streamline the process through which they could receive internship credit to help them so that they can meet their 120 credits for graduation or whatnot. Kind of what we had in our meeting last week in our discussion, we had touched on making it so folks could try and figure out someone like the faculty advisor for the student group could help sponsor them, help outline some curriculum so that it can apply towards major specific areas. We'd also thought about doing something through either Nathan Lindsay's office or like the CNI credits, so it could be a universal sort of student group leader course, and it would be like a 300 level upper division to help out students with graduating as well. But part of the reason why we want to do this is just to incentivize people to fulfill those roles. I guess just in my previous experiences as a student group leader, it can be a lot to chew. It's a big responsibility to have to run, 20 other college students, especially when they're hooligans. If they're hooligans, it can be especially difficult. But we just want to try and incentivize a way to help out students, at least if they are putting in the volunteer work and the time to do so. Try and, pitch them a little bit of a carrot. Giving them internship credit to help them graduate seemed to be a common sense thing to do. And I know a few of the student groups have already implemented on a case-by-case basis. So trying to apply it to all student groups, trying to make it so everyone can have opportunities to receive credit for leading student groups was the point of our discussion last week. But President Belcher, is there anything I'm missing or anything else that you wanted to touch on?
Oh, that was super thorough. Thank you.
Yeah. And that was also sent out in the student group weekly from our student group coordinator, Kenzie Carter. So if y'all wanted to refer to it, if y'all aren't in a student group, though, I can send you the link to that as well. It's going to be pretty cool. It's nice to finally give student group leaders kind of an incentive to want to fulfill those positions, especially when it's a lot to take on. But thank you for mentioning that, President Belcher. All right. Oh, I do have someone on my speakers list. Go ahead, Senator Anderson.
Yeah, so I just want to ask about the internship credit. Is that similar to the similar to the process for senators? Is kind of what you guys are basing it off of, where we can also get internship credit for our service on Senate?
Yeah, totally. It's still a case-by-case basis thing. So like, if I say I wanted to get business manager credit or like economics credit for being business manager, it would still be a case-by-case thing where I'd be like, oh, I'm going to go to my professor and ask them to help sponsor me. For student groups, what we're trying to do is streamline the process. So whoever the faculty advisor for the group or the staff advisor for the group is could be the sponsor for that. We've kind of touched on it's like the Wildlife Society. It's like, yeah, they could find a wildlife bio professor, or if you're like in the pre-medical sciences, you could get Mark over in biomed to be your sponsor. But things that are like sports groups might be a little bit more difficult of trying to find a sponsor for that. So kind of what we've been wanting to do is either to try and find like a universal course credit within something like Nathan Lindsay's office, like the CNI course and instruction, and have it so that someone in his office could help be the sponsor for some of those more unique or boutique opportunities. But as of right now, it is totally a case-by-case basis. We saw the student groups were doing it and making it so that they were getting internship credit for their leadership opportunities. So we just want to try and apply it to a broader spectrum and just streamline some of that process through ELC office.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah. All right, that does exhaust my speakers list. I didn't have anything else in my other, but if anyone else wanted to get on, I'll give y'all like 5 seconds if you need to. All right, no one else is on the speakers list. So thank y'all for letting me talk at you. And with that, that ends the business manager's report. Okay, cool.
And so begins committee reports. Text me if you want to get on the speakers list. I've already got a few so far. And I'll give about 10 seconds for people to text me. I'll have fun with this document. Here. Okay, first on my speakers list, I have Senator Kiefer.
Cool. So today the campus leadership team met, which is UM's task force. That's part of our commitment to being a culture of respect institution, which aims to end campus sexual violence. Today we started subcommittee meetings as part of our task to fill out the core culture of respect evaluation. So there's 6 key pillars that we're looking at, which include survivor support, clear policies on misconduct, investigation, adjudication, and sanctions, multi-tiered prevention education, public disclosure of campus violence statistics, school-wide mobilization with student groups and leaders, and ongoing self-assessment. We are looking at all university policies related to sexual misconduct, including the Student Code of Conduct, currently not the updated version, but soon, any employee handbooks, the last annual security report, the last campus climate survey, any assessment results from a third party, any active MOUs, any primary prevention and awareness programming offered to students, and results of any campus audits, along with a ton of other information. And we're doing this right now, not because we're necessarily in like legal trouble, it's because we need to complete this assessment and be sure we know where the policies need to be updated. And Alicia, the Title IX coordinator, saw a lot of policies that definitely needed to be clarified. And on our subcommittee for just one of the pillars today, we had about 17 pages of questions to fill out, and we only got through 1 page in 1 hour, so we have a lot of work to do. But I'm looking forward to working on this, and I'd be happy to answer any questions that y'all have about this group.
Senator Rink.
All right, I have 2 committee reports. So I guess first, the Curl Committee met on Monday, or soon to be Class Sustainability Fund met on Monday, and it was our first round of looking at project proposals for the semester. I think we had 8 or 10 proposals, which is a healthy number compared to previous years. So that's exciting. We didn't vote to approve any of the proposals, but we kind of discussed some criticisms and or good aspects of the proposals. And Maddie is going to reach out to the authors of those proposals and get back to them. And I think we're going to meet in like, I want to say like 2 weeks or like mid-April or something like that. And then they'll probably actually make some decisions about who gets what money. So that's where we're at with CRELF. And then the second committee report, we didn't actually meet, but I just wanted to update you all because a couple senators expressed interest about the combined heat and power project. So the Sustainable Campus Committee is going to meet for the rest of the, or throughout the rest of the semester as I expected they would. But as far as I've learned, I don't think there's going to be any hindrance. I mean, construction projects have continued to be completed throughout Missoula, so I don't think the CHP project is going to be an exception to that. So as far as I can tell, I know I mentioned last or a couple of meetings ago that we're on a pretty stringent timeline for this project. So as far as I can tell, the issues with COVID have not affected that. But I don't know. I just wanted to update you guys because I know some senators have expressed interest there. So yeah, happy to answer any questions about that.
Senator Fulton.
So Cam, Matt, we did our reference checks, and then we had our meeting to like discuss all of our reference checks, and all six of our candidates that we've been discussing had amazing reference checks. So it's going to be hard to pick our top 3 that are going to do campus visits. So as of right now, we were sent a Qualtrics survey of how we would rank them. And on Friday, we are having our overall meeting of who we would want to be our top 3. And yeah, that's about it.
Senator Anderson.
So the graduate council met today and we approved language for the graduate version of the credit, no credit. And I'm just going to read it because it's a little bit different. So one of the things the committee was very concerned about was graduate students and the grade requirements. So every program on campus for graduate students requires a 3.0 to stay in the program. So the some of the major changes were, instead of allowing us to have the option to ask or talk to our advisor, we must talk to our advisor before we're allowed to consider this option. And that they create an exception that the credit and no credit will apply to courses or will not apply to courses for which all requirements were due before spring break. So I know the business school, this was a concern for them. And the credit for us is going to be grades of C and above, not C minus, and we aren't allowed to do the high credit, credit, or no credit. So if you get a C minus or lower, you're going to be awarded no credit. But those were the big things, but that got approved. It's going to Faculty Senate whenever they're going to meet, and then they'll send out a communication to all the graduate students to let them know of the option.
Just as an FYI for you all, the next scheduled meeting of Faculty Senate is April 23rd, which is the day that voting concludes for the ASUM elections. Next, I have Senator Corkish.
All right, so I have like just 3 points for elections. A few people have reached out to me recently about like where to send the Kaiman questionnaire, which just to remind everyone, it wasn't like it was officially due on the 30th, but I'm sure if you send them in by like tomorrow or the next day, you'll be okay. I have 3 different emails for people at the Kaiman that you can send them to. I'm just gonna throw it in the chat because I think it would be easier than me like saying them out loud. So that is where you need to send your questionnaires. Again, that's like not a mandatory thing, but it's a really nice and easy way to get your name out there. Moving on, so while we did extend the due date for senator registration forms, it is this Friday, which is 2 days from now, and we have 10 senators, which is scary, and I don't really love it. So I talked with Shane today, and we kind of decided that our goal was going to be to get to at least 18, which means 8 more registrations in the next 2 days. Obviously, if we don't get those, we can extend the due date again, and then we will, as we have done so far, just post about it on Facebook, make sure people know that we're still looking for registrations. So what I need from y'all is to just really try to like spread the word that we're still looking for senators. It's really important that we get accurate representation of students on campus, and to do that we need obviously many more than 10 senators. Keeps me up at night thinking about a 10 Senate ASUM. So please just like do whatever you can to increase those numbers in the next few days. And then going off of that and kind of moving to my next point, I know that things are like super weird, but I still encourage everyone to try to do class reps, especially to get people to run for Senate. Well, they're not technically the same way they used to be. You can still reach out to professors and just be like, hey, like if you can send me your Zoom link or your Zoom ID, I can pop in at the start of class, keep them from 1 to 2 minutes max. And hopefully professors will understand that like obviously this is weird for everyone, and we can get some time to speak to some students. And then obviously if y'all can just like talk to professors for classes that you're in too, like that is the easiest route to go. And then finally, as for the debate, I've also had a number of questions regarding that. So we have a Zoom link created as of last night. And that's going to be held at the same time. I think elections committee is still kind of refining the details about like whether or not we're going to have a question and answer time period. I would like one, but obviously it's not going to be the same as like if we were in the UC. So we're still thinking about that. If you're like opposed to Q&A or like really want a Q&A, send me a message and I'll take note of that for our next meeting. But that is next Thursday, so it's coming up real quick. But that's everything. And always, if you have questions, just let me know.
Senator Fulton.
Senator Corgish, this might just be an idea when it comes down to the debates. If you want more student involvement, would it be possible to send the Zoom links via like UM Weekly, so that way all students would get the links for them and all that?
As far as I know, UM Weekly President Belcher is like working to give all the elections updates there. I also know that now that Faculty Senate is going to work with us, I think it'll be pretty easy to get that communication to all the students. So if that answers your question or not.
Senator Durnell. You gotta unmute yourself. He's still on.
Okay, sorry. So Senator Corkish or anyone who can answer this for me, if there were like only 10 senators who ran and got on, would there even be quorum to even hold Senate meetings?
Yes. You just have to have 2/3 of those senators present.
Yeah, so technically it would be possible, but one, it's not ideal, and two, it's just like, it's really hard to look at the student body and say we're representing them if we have so few students, which is why it's like absolutely crucial that we get more people to run. And I do think that it's each and every one of our individual, like we need to find people to do this and to take our spots. Like, I know I'm working really hard, and as hard as it is being stuck at home, like, I'm still trying to reach out to people I know that go to this university that are involved and like tell them about this opportunity. So we just like all need to be doing that.
Can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
If by Friday it's still looking pretty low like this, is there any consideration of moving the deadline up further and maybe talking about other solutions?
Yeah, absolutely. And I almost think I start to hesitate extending it too much further without extending the due date for like the end of campaigning. And when you get into that, it's kind of like there's a lot of gray areas, and like our executives and BMs going to be expected to be done campaigning, and then you have this much longer for Senate, or is everyone getting the same extension no matter like when your registration date was? Those are all decisions that I think coming up really soon elections is going to have to make. But I don't know, it's kind of everything's up in the air all the time. So
Thank you.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Last call.
Ethan.
Yeah.
I've got one for Senator Corkish.
Okay. Make sure to text me to get on the speakers list in the future, but continue.
I'm sorry, that's my bad. Morgan or Senator Corkish, has there been any talk on elections for maybe changing the budget cutoffs for candidates due to the pandemic?
are you thinking like more or less money?
Either, or yeah, I guess in this case, more.
Senator Terrell, are you talking about spending limits for candidates?
Yeah.
Okay.
Spending limits.
So that's not something that we've talked about. We definitely can, and I'll take note of that. I guess, so my personal thought would be, given that we're not like printing posters or like hosting events, stuff like where you would need to provide food or other things and other expenses, and we're not like chalking and all that. Like, I think it kind of evens out in that anything that you would spend on online would be pretty equivalent to like what you would have spent in like regular circumstances.
Senator Flanagan.
Yeah, I guess just to touch on what was just discussed, personally, I don't think that budgets should be, or excuse me, the limit for spending should be changed at all. I think that, as Senator Corkish said, it evens out pretty well. And I think that changing it would be wouldn't necessarily be the course of action, though I understand the concern that's being brought up. Though I think that we've had a lot of discussion on the deficit that ASUM is going to be running, considering the COVID-19 crisis. And I don't think that we should be, in terms of reimbursement, I definitely don't think we should be raising anything there. And then as far as limits go, I think that we are going to be fine where we're at.
Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Last call. All right, seeing none, so ends committee reports, and we now go into unfinished business, starting with Senate Bill 66, resolution endorsing the University of Montana's commitment to conserve 35% more energy by 2025. That should have been reflected better on the agenda, but Senator Durnell, your authorship.
I yield my authorship to Melody Holler, who's a guest here today.
Okay.
Hello, guys. Hope everything is going well. So I'm writing this resolution trying to seek the support of ASUM to secure energy conservation gains here. As you guys know, this last fall, the University of Montana got $63 million to spend on physical structure improvements. So that has to go to physical structure. And energy use at UM accounts for 2/3 of our greenhouse gas emissions. So things that the University of Montana has been talking about for literally over a decade are finally possible with these funds. So I'm asking the University of Montana to be ambitious, reasonably ambitious, and to try to commit to use 35% less energy by 2025. That is absolutely achievable. The combined heat and power plant on its own could reduce our energy usage by more than a third. And so I'm just asking them to pair that with other energy conservation measures. So the combined heat and power plant is awesome. It's going to do a lot to get us on the right path towards neutrality. But in the meantime, it's going to transition us to natural gas completely. So if we can reduce the amount of energy that we're demanding from that, we can really have a big impact on our greenhouse gas footprint. And the other thing about the energy conservation, it's a win-win-win situation. It saves money on energy costs. It will make our campus more beautiful, more comfortable to be in. Like, how many classrooms do you know that are super hot or super cold all the time? Like, at least half of them, the ones that I've been in at least. So going in and making the changes that would make those buildings operate the way that they were originally intended to is what these energy conservation measures would do. So yeah, I'm assuming you guys have read the resolution, and I'd love to answer any questions or comments you guys might have about it.
And just as a quick point of information for everyone, if you have questions, just ask it, and then I, as the chair, will yield to Melody so that she can answer. First on my speakers list, though, I have Senator Flanagan.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to start by saying I'm greatly in favor of this resolution. I think it was written very well. It's very insightful to be asking something like this of the university. I think that it sets a really good position for sustainability. As such, I urge all of the ASUM to vote yes on this. I do see one minor whereas clause change that I'll be making later in the meeting, just reordering whereas clauses. But other than that, I think the resolution is great. I think it was written very well. I think it's very professional, and I think it's going to contribute to accomplishing great things.
Senator Medina.
Yeah, hi everyone. So just want to say thank you to the author for writing this resolution, as well as taking the time to produce such a grassroots project. That's amazing. So this is not only going to affect our students' lives right now, rather it is going to make a significant impact to our greater Missoula community. Additionally, I highly suggest the Senate body to vote yes on this resolution, as the author has spent months and many times of their own time, as well as the impact that it's going to make on the reduction of our greenhouse gases and the climate change movement as a whole.
Senator Rink.
Yeah, I'd just like to express the strength of my support for this resolution. I know, I thank you, Melody, for putting this together. I regret I didn't have the time to help you guys edit it and stuff, but it looks really good. I think if anything, the work doesn't stop at this resolution, and this is just a first of many necessary steps. So if you have serious issues with sustainability, I still encourage you not to vote this down. I encourage everyone to vote this unanimously. I think this is, again, the first of many important steps. A resolution doesn't lower our carbon footprint, but this is just a great opportunity for ASUM to take be on the right side of history and take the right first step. So I just encourage you guys all to vote yes on this. I don't know, it's important, so please do.
Senator Hahn.
Yeah, I just want to commend S.A.L. Holler. I think this is one of the best written resolutions that we've seen from a non-ASUM member all semester. I really support your efforts. And to piggyback off what Senator Rink said, yeah, I think this is the right side of history, and I'm enthusiastically supporting it.
Senator Durnell.
Hi, I wanted to speak on behalf of sponsoring this resolution because I didn't sponsor just because I support the initiative, which I do. I support it greatly, but I sponsored it because the amount of enthusiasm and initiative I saw behind Melody and this idea and this purpose that could happen was substantial, more substantial than I've seen probably my entire year on Senate with any resolution coming to the floor. So I have to commend Melody for that. That's the reason why I sponsored this, just to get some of the writing down for a resolution format. And now I see this as something really strong, something that's very presentable to the administration. I encourage people to vote yes on this, but furthermore to follow up with it and really push the administration as much as they can to make this a reality, because it's really, this is really well researched and this can be implemented truly.
Senator Glucker.
Hi, yeah, I just wanted to also throw my full support behind this. And I want to praise Melody Holler so much, because I think that it just takes a lot as an SAL to, or anyone that's not on ASUM, you don't go out and you don't just write resolutions typically. And I think that, you know, it shows how much Melody really believes in sustainability in this campus. And that is, and I was very proud to sit in RNA and review this resolution. And I'm very proud to be able to vote yes on this today. So yeah, I just wanted to say thank you so much, Melody. And like, you have done so much work on this campus, and I don't, you know, we're all ASUM senators, and I feel like sometimes we get a lot of applause for that, but people like you really help make this campus run. So thank you.
Senator Flanagan.
Move the whereas clauses in starting on line 69 and line 72 to line 30.
So like right here?
Yes. Line 31. And then, yeah.
Is that how you'd like it to read?
Yes.
Cool. Is there a second?
Second.
Unanimous.
Unanimous consent. Okay, so this has been moved by Senator Flanagan and seconded by Senator Fulton, and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? It's okay if you call discussion and we need a placard vote. I have polls set up for this. Discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Discussion. All right, discussion called by Senator Medina. Senator Flanagan, your authorship.
Yeah, I'm glad discussion was called on this so I could actually give a bit of reasoning as to why I wanted to do this, make this amendment. In reading this resolution, I felt that the whereas clauses in 69 and 72 would fit better in over up in line 30, as I feel like that's sort of where that area of like statistics on CO2 emissions and whatnot goes as far as justification for later therefore clauses. This just makes more sense order-wise for me. I still think the resolution was written very well and very professionally. This is just something that I think bolsters the resolution a bit, even if it's just sort of a nitpick on my side. But I'm open to any discussion.
Senator Medina, you called discussion.
Yeah, I just wanted to hear his reasoning, but thank you.
Is there any more discussion on the amendment? Any more discussion on the amendment? Last call. All right, seeing none, we're gonna try to do a placard vote. And there should be a poll up. Please vote.
VP Hanley, where is it at?
It should either be in participants or the chat. Can you not see it?
It's in participants.
Oh, this works so
Are you
well.
asking us to press yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay.
This worked so well yesterday. All right, I'm gonna give, if you all can't fill out this poll, we'll just do it by roll call. This worked really well when I did a meeting on Monday, so I don't know why this is messing up now. Oh, that was pretty disappointing. All right, let's see if the votes were tallied. Oh, we got 0 votes. All right, we're just gonna do a roll call. Secretary Shover.
Senator Fulton,
Yes.
Senator Glukert,
Pass.
Senator Gregory,
Yes.
Senator Hahn,
Yes.
Senator Hurley,
Yes.
Senator Johnston,
No.
Senator Kiefer,
Pass.
Senator Medina,
Yep.
Senator Nelson,
No.
Senator Ream,
Abstain.
Senator Rank,
Yeah.
Senator Tarallo,
Yes.
Senator Anderson,
No.
Senator Borgasani,
Yes.
Senator Bowles,
Yes.
Senator Corkish,
Yes.
Senator Durnell,
Yes.
Senator Flanagan,
Yes.
Business Manager Parsons,
Yes.
and President Belcher.
Yes. Yes.
And then go back through and call out for the senators.
Senator Jimmy.
He's excused.
Okay, that was all the senators.
Oh, okay. What's the vote count?
I was
Point of
missed. I
order.
passed.
Oh, then Senator Glukert,
Yes.
Senator Kiefer,
Yes.
Senator Ream.
Abstain.
Okay. That should be. So then it's 16 to 3-1. Motion.
Right. The amendment is adopted on a 16 to 3-1 vote. Back to my main speakers list. I have Senator Kiefer.
Okay, cool. I just want to shower more support on Melody. I strongly support this resolution, and as others have said, this truly is a step in the right direction. And Melody's work ethic, activism, and passion on climate justice is absolutely incredible, and I commend her. She's worked tirelessly on this, and there's no doubt that she will do amazing things in the future. So keep up the good fight. And again, just thank you so much for your work on this. And I strongly encourage everyone to vote yes on this resolution.
All right. Any more discussion? Any more discussion? Last call. Senator Gregory.
Move to approve.
There's been a motion to approve by Senator Gregory.
Second.
And it's been seconded by Senator Fulton.
Unanimous.
Unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Discussion or objection?
Objection.
Objection noted by Senator Ream. Any more objections or anyone want to call discussion? Great. Seeing none, Senate Bill 66 is approved by unanimous consent with one objection. I'm going to take a 5-minute break after this, but before that, I'm going to yield to Melody Haller for another message.
So happy that that just got passed. And by the way that you guys described me tonight, it's like I just did this all by myself and I created the sustainability movement. Totally not true. I want to thank everyone that helped me with this. And there were a lot of people, in particular, Senator Medina, Durnell, and Kiefer, and Rink. But I've also heard a lot of support from other people who have encouraged me to continue following up and following through with this process. So thank you again, your support is appreciated, and thank you for all the work that you do in ASUM and continuing actually running the university. So that's all.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you, Melody. We appreciate your kind words. So I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and Advisor Renner Fahey just messaged me a really good idea about the polling. So I'll be back in about 5 minutes.
Does this mean we all take a 5-minute break?
Yes, this means you all take a 5-minute break.
Okay, cool.
I love that. Thank you so much.
Yes.
No,
Be
y'all
back
have to stay here. Don't
Goodbye.
Don't
be
move.
back at 8:07.
I'm never
Okay,
coming
cool.
back. Goodbye. This is
Goodbye
my
forever.
Christian, get out of here. You're not on this body, man.
Daniel, leave me alone.
Let Christian stay. Don't run his life.
I just want to be a part of things.
I think he should leave.
I think that Ethan should leave.
Yeah, agreed. All
Yeah,
right.
let's plan a
bye-bye.
coup real quick. Let's do it.
Everyone's so mean. Emma, what's the cat's name?
His name is Jack. He's like 22 pounds.
Emma, he's a chunk and he's adorable.
Boy.
He's adorable.
Thanks.
All right, we'll be starting up again in a minute. I'm going to message the group chat. Oh. All right. So I'm going to call this meeting back to order at 8:07 p.m. And we're going to continue moving on. And the next one is going to be resolution amending Article 5, Section 23 of the ASUM bylaws. Senator Rink, your authorship.
Hi. This resolution should be fairly straightforward. It's also my first resolution I've ever written, so like feel free to like edit it and critique it in any way you see fit. But I mean, like, it was unanimously passed by the committee to change the name of CRELF to the CLES Sustainability Fund, kind of just to align with ASUM Sustainability Coordinator, Eva Rock, the Campus Sustainability Coordinator, and kind of just like the term sustainability is kind of like where trends have gone on terms of the issue. And then I guess lastly, I would like to, I'm not sure if I can make a motion right now, but
I'll allow it.
to see this at the next, can you say, can I do that, Ethan?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, I'd just like motion to table this to the next meeting.
Okay, so there's been a motion by Senator Rink to table Senate Bill 67 until the April 8th Senate meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Kiefer, and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection?
Discussion.
Yeah, discussion called by Senator Flanagan. Senator Rink, your authorship.
Yeah, so just because the CRELF, or soon to be CLES Sustainability Fund Committee, is not meeting, we're not meeting for another couple of weeks. So we decided just to pass it in committee and get that over with, but we are still waiting to hear back from the CLES family. We don't think there's going to be any opposition to this name change, but I think it's Len Broberg or maybe Brian Kearns. I'm not sure. One of those two are reaching out to the family, and Maddie's involved with that too. So we're just going to give them another week just to do our due diligence, so the family can, I don't know, at least express their support for it. But if not, we're just going to move ahead and change the name. But they're waiting to hear back, or at least they were going to reach out to him from the Monday meeting. That's what they said. So yeah, yeah.
Senator Flanagan.
Yield.
Bolton. Bolton.
Yield.
Is there any more discussion? Last call for discussion. All right, we'll take another roll call vote on this. Secretary Shovel, can you please take a roll call vote?
Senator Hahn.
Yep.
Senator Hurley.
Yep.
Senator Johnston.
Yes.
Senator Kiefer.
Yep.
Senator Medina.
Yep.
Senator Nelson.
Mike.
Yeah.
Senator Ream.
Yes.
Senator Rink.
Dan.
Senator Tarallo.
Yes.
Senator Anderson.
Yes.
Senator Borgasani.
Yes.
Senator Bowles.
Yes.
Senator Corkish.
Yes.
Senator Donnell.
Yes.
Senator Flanagan.
Yes.
Senator Fulton.
Yep.
Senator Gluckert.
Yes.
Senator Gregory.
Yes.
Business Manager Parsons.
Yep.
President Belcher.
Yes.
Motion passes 19-0-1.
Cool. So the motion to table passes 19-0-1. So we will now move on to Senate Bill 68. The resolution encouraging the creation of a campus-wide paper towel compost program, and Senator Medina, your authorship.
Hi, everyone. I would first like to say that I hope everyone is doing well, and please let me know if I can lend a hand in any way. This resolution is based on the Forestry Building's effort to demonstrate to UM administration how much waste could be diverted from the landfill if UM simply composted washroom towels. And by washroom towels, I mean the paper towels that we use in the restrooms every day. It only costs the Forestry Building about $48 per month for 2 bins from Missoula Compost. Missoula Compost founder Sean Doty, I think that's how you say his last name, I could be butchering that, but agreed to offer UM a bulk discount on the 64-gallon bins campus-wide. Missoula Compost also said that they hardly see any contamination in the bins and agreed to be a part of this pilot program, as it would drastically decrease the waste in Missoula and Missoula's community if it were implemented campus-wide. The Forestry Building only fills 1 bin, 1.5 bins per week. And this year we're implementing our composting bins in the Forestry Building, as well as the 4th floor of the CLAP building. We ran the composting efforts for about 9 months now. The forestry building with its 2 bathrooms alone diverted nearly 1,000 gallons of paper towels packed out of the landfill. We also diverted over 240 plastic garbage bags from the landfill by simply not using them to collect the paper towels. So kind of the goal for this paper towel compost pilot program is to be implemented campus-wide, which is why I'm writing this resolution, as well as to assist the University of Montana's effort to divert paper towel waste from the landfill. This will also just be another initiative to further UM's effort to achieve a more sustainable campus. There are 64 buildings on campus. If the conservative estimate that the forestry building accounts for, the figure of paper towel waste diverted could be up to 1,400 gallons per month. Or if we're talking about academic year, 126,000 gallons per year. If you want to talk about equivalency, you can say that it's equivalent to 4 semi-loads packed of paper towel waste. In initiating this program, UM will become a step closer to making small acts of sustainability change as our core and standard element within the campus. This program is an opportunity to have students, faculties, and our Missoula community to do their part to minimize the waste this campus produces daily. Thanks.
Great. And then before we get to any discussion, I'm going to entertain a motion for a slate of amendments just for formatting. So give me a bit to type it up here. All right, I'm going to entertain that motion, which is just fixing the signature lines and putting a space in between those whereas clauses. It's been moved by Senator Torello, seconded by Senator Flanagan, and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection, discussion or objection? Great, seeing none, those amendments have been approved, and I'll make sure to fix this down here. Next on my speakers list, I have Senator Kiefer.
Okay, on line 57, I might have changed now. I move to strike ASUM Sustainability Committee, Zero Waste Committee, Sustainable Campus Committee, and replace it with the ASUM Sustainability Board, the Zero Waste Advisory Board, the Sustainable Campus Committee, and I will drop that in the chat because I know that's long.
Is that how you would like it to read?
So it should be the Zero Waste Advisory Board,
okay,
and then the ASUM Sustainability Board.
Second.
Hold on 1 second. Is that correct?
Yep.
Great. I will now take a second on that amendment.
Second.
That unanimous.
Seconded by Senator Hahn, and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection, discussion or objection? All right, seeing none, those
Can I have a
amendments.
follow-up?
Yep.
Cool. I just want to say that I strongly support this resolution, and I really encourage the Senate to pass this. Senator Medina has been working on this project since she stepped foot on this campus and has put in an endless number of hours of work on this. She's really thrown herself into the work of sustainability, and this resolution is a clear result of all those efforts. So thank you again to Senator Medina for all her work, and I strongly encourage the body to pass this unanimously.
Next, I have Senator Journell.
Well, so I sponsored this resolution, and it is similar to the previous sentiments I discussed about earlier resolutions. I've known Senator Medina since the first day she set foot in Missoula, and quickly she became very involved in sustainable efforts on campus. And this was one of the first initiatives that came about, and it was really from, this is truly coming from her heart. And this is something that I know she's seen through her work efforts in the forestry building and with that pilot program. And what her resolution does is that it works. And by implementing that campus-wide, it's making a very, very profound impact on the campus and the amount of waste we're diverting from landfills. I just see tonight overall as a huge step towards better sustainable efforts for our campus and holding our campus responsible for the motto of sustainability that it often markets. And my highest regards to the author of this resolution, who put in more than a semester's amount of work getting this here, communicating with the people that she needed to on her own accord, and now advocating for a very well-written resolution to the Senate today. I also encourage people to follow up with this and see how they can be helpful in implementing this later, because passing this as a resolution from the Senate is just the first step. And it's going to take a lot more work to get this really implemented on campus in any time soon.
Senator Flanagan.
So I'll keep this short, just to not repeat previous sentiments. This is written well. It accomplishes a value of sustainability really good, and frankly, sustainability is something we should all value considering the implications it has on us as people and our environment. As such, this is something that should be approved unanimously. Even if you're not somebody that values sustainability, the proof is in the numbers that Senator Medina brought up. That alone is a reason to vote yes. And I hope I can encourage you all to do so. Moving on top of that, can I have a follow-up?
Yeah.
Move to add a line in between the whereas clause on what is line 19 for me and the whereas clause on...
That was part of the slate of amendments that I did earlier.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
In that case, move to approve.
I'm going to rule that dilatory for now.
Okay.
Senator Fulton.
Move to approve.
All right.
Second.
There's a motion to approve by Senator Fulton, and it's been seconded by Senator Turallo.
Unanimous.
And unanimous consent has been called. Discussion or objection?
Discussion.
All right. Discussion's been called by Senator Kiefer. So because discussion was called on a motion to approve, this would essentially function the same as a roll call vote. So I would ask Senator Fulton to withdraw his motion and Senator Turallo to do the same. Otherwise, we'll be doing the same. To Senator Fulton, withdraw.
I don't concede.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen. We're going to have a discussion on whether we should approve this resolution and not whether we should pass this resolution right now. And then we will go into a placard vote on whether to approve it, and it will not be passing. So the discussion should be focused on whether we should approve it now, which is discussion about the whole resolution and the motion itself. And then we'll pass it if the motion to approve passes, which will essentially serve as a roll call vote. And I just want to make aware, if you all decide to do a motion to approve, it really should just be on a time when we're about to do unanimous consent. Because in House rules, it lays out specifically this type of motion on a resolution. So just in the future, Senator Fulton.
Yeah, so the reason why I made that motion is hearing previous sentiments that were said and then going off of how we voted on the last resolution when it came to something very similar. I don't see any reason why not to move to approve this. I understand why people would want me to withdraw, but if we're just going to approve of this anyways, there's no need of going through all that when we can easily just move to approve.
Kiefer, you called discussion.
Yeah, I just had a few more amendments that I wanted to make, specifically one spelling error and the changing of a committee to board. I would really appreciate it if you could withdraw so I could make those amendments so that our final resolution that we do approve looks professional and correct.
Senator Rink.
Along that same note, if you're just getting tired of sitting on your computer, that's not a reason to push a resolution through really quickly and abruptly when other senators still have things to say about it. So I would again appreciate a withdrawal.
By the way, you can make amendments on a motion to approve. Senator Johnston.
Oh, I strongly encourage the author and the seconder to withdraw. I think it's pretty apparent that we do have people that want to make amendments, and so I implore the author of this motion to reconsider their stance.
Senator Corkish, parliamentary inquiry.
Yeah, so what sort of amendments can we motion to make in this sort of discussion?
You can't. You can't make any amendments during this discussion because the discussion is on the motion to approve, which is not the main motion, and that's the resolution. So any amendment I would rule dilatory as it's not in related topic to the motion that we're discussing at hand, which is the motion to approve. So I would really encourage Senator Fulton to withdraw. Thank you. Senator Turallo?
I already withdrew a while back.
Okay, I have to ask you again because it's the motion
Oh, okay.
that has to.
Sorry. Then yeah, I withdraw again.
All right. Senator Hahn.
Yeah, I just wanted to commend Senator Medina on this as well. I think these are exactly the little changes that have a huge impact. But Senator Medina, would you yield to the question?
Absolutely.
Yeah, just you mentioned the 64 buildings, and I just want to make sure, is the River Campus, Missoula College included in that?
Yep.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to voting for this. Thank you.
Senator Kiefer.
Cool. Thank you. If you could scroll down to the last page, please. Yeah, so I moved to on line 103, change sustainability committee to sustainability board.
And then would you also like to, before we do that, if you want to do the slate of amendments where we could change advisory board, I would consider that in line with the same amendment.
Okay, yes, I would also like to do that.
Okay. All right, so there's been a motion to change ASUM Sustainability Committee to ASUM Sustainability Board, and then the Zero Waste to Zero Waste Advisory Board. It's been moved by Senator Kiefer and seconded by Senator Corkish, and unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection, discussion or objection? Seeing none, that amendment is adopted. Senator Kiefer, would you like a follow-up?
Yes, I would like a follow-up. On line 89, move to correct the spelling of Paul Lassiter's last name.
Everyone gets it wrong. I don't know if any, I've only seen one person spell Paul's last name right. Is there a second? Seconded by Senator Rink.
Unanimous.
And unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection, discussion or objection? Seeing none, that amendment is adopted. Next on my speakers list, I have Senator Flanagan.
Move to approve.
Okay. I'm going to rule that dilatory because I am not allowing a motion to approve on this resolution anymore. We will take a roll call vote at the end. Next on my speakers list, I have Senator Kiefer.
Yield.
Okay. Is there any more discussion? Any more discussion? Last call. Great. Seeing none, we will now enter into a roll call vote on Senate Bill 68, resolution encouraging the creation of a campus-wide paper towel compost program. Secretary Shovel, will you please take the roll call vote?
Senator Johnston.
Yes.
Senator Kiefer.
Yep.
Senator Medina.
Yes.
Senator Nelson.
Yes.
Senator Ream.
Abstain.
Senator Rink.
Yep.
Senator Turallo.
Yes.
Senator Anderson.
Yes.
Senator Borgasani.
Yes.
Senator Bowles.
Mike, Senator Bowles.
Yes.
Senator Corkish.
Yes.
Senator Durnell.
Yes.
Senator Flanagan.
Yes.
Senator Fulton,
Yep.
Senator Gluckert,
Yes.
Senator Gregory,
Yes.
Senator Hahn,
Yes.
Senator Hurley,
Yes.
Business Manager Parsons,
Yep.
President Belcher.
Yes.
Resolution passes 19 to 0 to 1.
All right, Senate Bill 68 passes 19 to 0 to 1. That concludes unfinished business, and we are now into new business. Please text me if you want to get on the speakers list. So far, I have Belcher and Torello, and I will recognize President Belcher.
Yield.
Senator Torello.
Okay, one resolution to legal board temporarily waiving ASUM legal services advising fees for clients with landlord, tenant, or consumer debt disputes.
All right, so that'll be.
And I'm sending that to the floor right now.
All right, Secretary Shelver, that'll appear in your chat. Hopefully, it'll make it a little bit easier to put in new business. But can you give a brief description? That also will only be sent to legal.
Yeah, correct. So legal board had a meeting this, hold on. We had a meeting this past Friday, and this is kind of a response to a bunch of problems that have come out of the coronavirus pandemic. So Director Villamez and the committee talked about the increase in landlord-tenant problems and consumer debt disputes, and so we thought it'd be a good idea to waive all the just the advising fees for anybody who comes with us with that sort of dispute, comes to us with that sort of dispute now until the end of the spring 2020 semester.
Cool. Next on my speakers list, I have Janelle.
One resolution in charge for the Relations and Affairs Committee in Article 5, Section 2 of the ASUM bylaws.
Cool. And that'll be sent to Relations and Affairs. And can you please give a brief description?
Yeah, so this is kind of guided off of previous discussion from Senate Bill 64 regarding do pass or do not pass recommendations. After that discussion, I realized it was necessary to incorporate some charge in RNA since there was nothing to reference within the do pass, do not pass recommendation resolution. And it was a general concern of other senators. And this was already informally discussed by RNA just so it could be as best presentable as possible. And we'll be seeing it in RNA this week.
Senator Flanagan.
One resolution amending the student group recognition and funding process to be categorical.
And okay, that'll go to board on members as well as board on budget and finance.
And I would like that to go to Relations and Affairs as well.
Okay, we can send it to RNA. But would you like to give a brief authorship?
Yes, please. So this is the resolution I've been talking about doing for the last couple weeks, almost months now. And frankly, this is something that probably should have happened a lot sooner in terms of just clarifying and sort of doing something different for our recognition process. As we've all seen during final budgeting and elsewhere, we've had a lot of issues with the recognition process. So what I'm trying to do is set up a system that sort of tries to address the issues and concerns that were brought up. What this will do is set 3 categories for student groups to be recognized under: inclusive, associative, and exclusive. Each category is defined as well as an appeals process for a student group wishing to appeal and change into a different category. On top of that, there is also clarification and direction given for funding these groups under these categories, as well as some other clerical things like how to contact a group about the category that they're recognized under and whatnot.
And then last on my speakers list, I have President Belcher.
Hi, everyone. As you can see, I'm being very incompetent in the chat right now. My apologies for that. But I have 2 and I will get both of the titles sent to the right place eventually. I promise I can figure it out. But one resolution encouraging the reconsideration of the Dean of Students position to be sent to the Relations and Affairs Committee.
And then can you give a brief description of that?
Yeah, so the University of Montana for a long time actually used to have a Dean of Students. We do not now, and that position was eliminated a couple of years ago, but after going to school for a year without a Dean of Students and serving in the capacity of president without a Dean of Students, I think that's something that the administration should reconsider, or at least take a look at the job duties that would fall under the Dean of Students and try to align those with positions that already exist, or just hire a Dean of Students.
And then your second resolution?
One resolution urging the creation of a Director of Student Employment position at the University of Montana.
And that will be sent to Relations and Affairs. Any other committees?
Relations and Affairs only.
Cool. And a brief description, please.
Yeah, so I touched on this earlier in the meeting. I think it's really important that student employees have an advocate. Right now, they don't really have a specific person who is paid to address student employee issues. I think as ASUM, we serve in the capacity of being advocates for students, but when it comes to getting in between an employee and their supervisor, that's kind of a line with personnel that I don't think it's really our position to cross. And for that reason, I think it's really important that the University of Montana hire someone to serve that role. In addition, HR already is very understaffed and needs to be expanded anyway. And so if they will be hiring new positions in HR, I think one that focuses on student employment would be the way to go.
That exhausts my speakers list. Does anyone else have any new business? Any more new business? Last call for new business. Seeing none, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Senator Fulton and seconded by Senator Turallo.
Unanimous.
Yes.
Unanimous consent has been called. Is there any discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? Discussion or objection? All right, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned at 8:35 p.m.
Comments.